How's it going, people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Welcome to my Moon Knight Episode 3 recap, review, and breakdown. Do not forget that we are now halfway through the Moon Knight Season 1, I guess you could say. I mean, maybe we are getting more, and I think we might. And yeah, there's 6 episodes, and this episode really pushed things forwards, considering now we're in Egypt, and with what was going on at the end of the episode, with Khonshu and Arthur Harrow really being that much closer to resurfacing Armmit. We definitely took some interesting strides into where things are going, especially with the teasers of a third personality for Marc. The interesting factor about this now is, have we seen him before in the series or in the past few episodes where we thought maybe it was Marc or maybe even Steven in a certain reflection? That's something that I feel like is really interesting when you take into account the multiple personalities that Marc Spector has. Overall, a lot of stuff to talk about today, so let me know your thoughts, your theories, everything down in the comments below. As usual, go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it, and subscribe for more MCU videos like this. Now, this picked up with Layla kind of getting a passport, basically, to go back to Cairo, where she hasn't been in 10 years, and she was kind of bitching about the situation. And when we go to Arthur Harrow, he's located Armit's tomb. The scarab literally started pointing down, but obviously there's quite a bit of digging to go. So even though we saw him later on in the episode, I guess all of his workers were digging away still, which is why he could take some time, step out, and make sure that Marc or Steven and Layla couldn't get the clue from the sarcophagus. And when he learns that Marc is in Cairo, he didn't really seem that bothered, and I don't really blame him. He's already got like a relic which can summon those freaking tearing apart dogs, and he's right on top of the tomb. At this point, he's probably feeling pretty untouchable. But that's when we cut to Marc Spector doing some parkour across the rooftops of Cairo. It led to a pretty cool fight demonstrating Marc's, skills as his mercenary days. But this is where things get a little bit interesting. And I do have a bit of wondering, with regards to the personalities, because don't forget that last episode, they kind of made it pretty clear that whoever is in control of the body, something's changed. They seem to have more control. But then in this episode, we were darting all over the place again. I'm not saying they're being mega inconsistent. It's just something I picked up. Like Steven, I remember Marc said at the end of last episode, it kind of requires all of your willpower to even appear in the reflection, to be like a fly on the wall for the primary in control. So the fact that we had a takeover of whom you think it's Steven at first in the episode, but it is most likely, especially on the first part on the rooftop, that other personality, maybe they just have a bit more freaking control than Marc and Steven put together. In the meantime, we do have Steven just being like, don't do it, Marc, stop it, don't do it, Marc, because he doesn't want any violence. And I did I think even before those warnings from Steven even came in, we had Marc, instead of punching, maybe it was the kid in the face, he just then got an open hand or fist, if you will, and just kind of slapped him. So he was choosing to be non-lethal anyway, despite the other personality coming out and being extremely lethal, and I guess Steven putting all the blame on Marc for that. But and vice versa, actually. There was a little bit of disputing and arguing between the personalities again. And I do like how they do this, through the use of shots, for example, any kind of reflection. I believe one of them was in the blade, or any kind of mirror or something like that, reflective surface. We sometimes get Steven popping out being like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Marc? Stop it. And this is when he got taken over and he just woke up in the cab. You could argue that is a clue for the third personality, who just has to be Jake Lockley. Not that he was driving the cab like his comic book counterpart who was a cab driver. You can still kind of acknowledge how it was a nod to said personality, if you will, or once upon a time, just alter ego. Again, though, I do hope that they answer why Jake Lockley was able to take control when last episode, when Marc was in control, and as he voiced, something's changed, whoever's in control now is more stronger, as I've mentioned. We had Steven just trying to get a hold. Even Marc, in other times when Steven was in control, had to literally ask him permission to take over. So what is it that Jake has that the others don't have? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of thing just isn't answered. Not to be too nitpicky here, but sometimes they just don't always give explanations for things like that. But I just wanted to point it out and how I hope that they do. And considering that Marc and Steven aren't even aware aware of Jake, maybe there is something up his sleeve that we just don't have the answers for yet as to why he can somewhat hijack whenever he wants. Now, the Jake Lockley side of things in Moon Knight, he's usually the one who has like you could say a whole network of spies, informants. It's kind of, if you will, excuse the comparison here, but it's not like a lot of other people aren't doing it as well. The Matches Malone persona of Batman, like his criminal element, undercover, drifter mode. He, as a cab driver, could get a lot of tips, insight from that of the gritty streets and everything like that allowed him to be ahead of the game with regards to the very people that he was after. Just even if it's in I have an overview of what's going on in the cesspool of the city. But with regards to what's going on here, just like Steven being the kind of Mr. Knight get-up changes, and as I always say, adaptations aren't copy and paste. I do wonder and suspect that they'll probably be making things a little bit different for Jake Lockley as well. He seems to be extremely savage as well, just like that one part where Mark just wakes up and takes over and he's already got like a freaking machete or something in the other guy's abdomen. So that's when they start blaming each other, saying, well, you're massacring people and things like that, or like Steven, oh no, Steven, what have you done? They're not aware of this other person. So that's another fascinating thing I like, not only just as a viewer, but knowing that the characters aren't even aware of another character living within them. So that's another entertaining factor of this. But I do wonder what creative liberties they've taken with adapting Jake Lockley. But at this point, this is where, and I really enjoyed this part, where the gods started getting involved, because since they didn't have a lead anymore, because, that kid cut himself off with the tie and he went splat, basically, they were at a loss as to how to find Armmit's tomb. And I do feel like, in a way, it was kind of frustrating seeing these other gods. It was just like, you stupid gods, like, you really gotta, let this happen, or are you really not gonna kind of believe him? But the context is the most important thing, and since we have Khonshu being banished in the past, I think they're just kind of done with his shit to an extent of, this kind of person who they have a bit of disdain for anyway, all of the gods in the Pyramid of Giza. And not all of the gods were as, condemning as the other, and we'll get to that in a second, but I liked the way they got into it as well. To get this meeting to happen, Khonshu had to do something that would just, the gods would not be able to ignore, and that is manipulate the weather, blot out the sun to make a little moon shape. I really like that. And then a portal appears, and, that's just, I like all the mysticism stuff of Marvel and whatnot, and when this happened, shit was getting real. So this is where all of the gods formed that council, and I liked how this is where I was saying not all the gods condemn Khonshu straight away, because they placed a little seed here with Yetzil, the avatar of Hathor, who was the goddess of music and love. And she even expressed how she used to sing to Khonshu, or at least he enjoyed her tune. So I think out of all the gods, she had a bit of compassion and empathy, and especially when Marc Spector was on the floor later, a bit of pity for him. I'm just glad that even though at that point it was Yetzil again who was looking at Marc Spector, I could almost see through her that Hathor was also looking at this situation and allowing her to give advice, saying, there is another way and whatnot. I feel like she felt a bit of sadness almost, or just like to believe Khonshu a little bit more than any of the other gods were willing to even give him an ear, really, because, they completely believed Arthur Harrow in the end. But I do want to say that just in this scene in general, I think Oscar Isaac really gave it his all. I don't know if the atmosphere was set up right for, the way he was acting, because I felt like he was giving it all, like he was shedding tears with just the strain of the situation. I liked the awkward vibes at the same time, with how, the voice of Khonshu came out, and then, he was looking left to right like that. But at the same time, I feel like the atmosphere, the music wasn't as almost serious enough as what was warranted from the performance he was trying to give, if that makes sense. I'm not saying this was Oscar-worthy acting or anything, but I could just really feel that Oscar Isaac was genuinely trying to give everything physically in that moment. But it just felt like a bit too lighter than what he was trying to give to this scene. I don't know if anyone else picked that up, but regardless, it was really cool. But I just felt like Arthur Harrow was being incredibly transparent in his deception. But again, Khonshu's reputation wasn't exactly the best. So this led to the point of them threatening, if you want to tamper with the weather again or anything like that, we will, basically imprison you in stone. But luckily, we had the avatar of Hathor provide a way as to how Mark could indeed find the sarcophagus of Senfu, But overall, on this whole God scene, it kind of took me by surprise because I didn't think that would happen so soon in a way. Just like, you know, these are the other gods, the other avatars. I want to see more of the powers because I love when we saw like the restraint kind of powers come in and it was like, you know, Marc was completely bound by that. That was awesome. I would like to see maybe a flashback of Khonshu and his perspective because he felt like they abandoned humanity and he didn't. Clearly, there was a bit of a dispute going on there from different perspectives. So this is when Marc was looking for the sarcophagus, and Layla appears out of nowhere. I'm guessing she tracked his phone again. You have to think that. And this is where, you know, excuse the comparisons here if nobody doesn't like it, but at the same time, it did feel like Rick O'Connell and Evie in a sense, just in a sense of way. Like, I feel like she even looks a little bit like Evelyn. You know, from the chemistry and passion they have for each other evidently still being there as they're going on their way to the private collection of Anton, the little kind of squabbles they have, but, you know, the interest. It's just, I don't know, just kind of reminds me of it. And then it's a mummy kind of well, it's not really a mummy story, but they're going after a sarcophagus, the combat and whatnot. It just took me back to my early 2000s childhood of seeing that kind of adventure in Egypt between Rick O'Connell and Evie. Now, I'm not going to judge this straight away because they could give us more things, but I hope that this isn't the only explanation because a lot of people have been wondering how did he hide that in his marriage. Now, the very dialogue they gave us, or should I say the only dialogue they've given us so far, or explanation, is when she was asking, like, you know, you could have told me, you know, what it's been like for you about Stephen. He did say, though, to be fair, for what it's worth, I did have it under control until recently. And I just don't know how he was able to suppress other personalities when he was married for the entire time they were married. Like, surely she would have noticed something. So, as he said, like, well, first of all, she didn't, which means he must have, as he said, had it under control until very recently. That's when she asked what happened, and he's like, it doesn't matter. Now, how does one, in that situation, suppress someone like Stephen and even Jake Lockley? That's a question I want to know, but they didn't really answer it. So whatever the dialogue was with what happened, it doesn't matter. Maybe we're going to get a further explanation with that. But I do like how it was very transparent, how the pain of the marriage was there, yet, you know, the love at the same time when they were holding hands and stuff, how they kind of wished that it could have gone differently, but it didn't and whatnot. There's still evidently a connection there, which just makes it that kind of fun duo, you know, adventure that they go on together all the more interesting, especially when they go to visit Anton. Now, it was interesting. Like, I wonder if when they were separated, that Layla perhaps screwed over Anton because his bodyguard or right-hand man said he's looking forward to seeing you after Madripoor, which is a nice little, you know, MCU drop there. We saw that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier after all. He says, I'm sure you two will have a lot to talk about. And then we had some lines later from Anton saying, I was so very ready to make peace with you. I think it was something like that. So maybe she screwed him over when they were in Madripoor. Something like that happened. Maybe it was like a black market deal in the lawless place that is Madripoor that went wrong. And she went there with Anton, but it didn't go well. But they want to rekindle, or at least to him, make peace with that relationship so they can maybe explore things further in the future with maybe some antiquities and stuff. I don't know, but I could tell that maybe he likes her as well because he really wasn't a big fan of her husband, and that was pretty funny. Didn't go to shake his hand straight away, kept looking at him very sternly. And yeah, this is where shit kind of hit the fan because we had Stephen luckily identified that, okay, so maybe we can make a star map with all of this. Arthur Harrow came in because he had some time off, you know, whilst they were doing the dig, and this is where he flexed a few things, which obviously are going to come back to bite people in the arse, you know, with regards to how he can read through people in terms of maybe that comes with one of the relics. Here we have him tease Layla's, you know, father's murder and how, you know, she deals with that. But he says about Marc that he doesn't tell her the truth because he knows that if he does, she'll see him exactly as he sees himself, unworthy of love. Now, what is this truth? She did call him out on it a little bit later on the way to the desert. He said that I had a right to know, and he dismisses it, saying I have no idea. And I'm really wondering what that is. You know, I'm sure there's some crazy fan theories out there saying, oh, you know, what if he was involved in her father's death somehow, or something like that. Maybe it's just about her being the one to be taken over by Khonshu afterwards. I think it could be that, because don't forget that Khonshu wants her to be the successor to Marc, wants his deal is over as being Moon Knight, even though he doesn't want that for her. I can't place it entirely, so again, let me know your ideas, but I loved the Moon Knight combat. I loved the use of the crescent darts. I love how the cape absorbed all the bullets and you could fling them back out and, you know, right back into the people who shot them. It was just a fun scene. I love the healing factor of the suit and how he can get impaled 50 times. We did have a bit of a comedic moment with Mr. Knight being like, okay, take the body, take the body, Mark. I like Steven a lot, but I'm not mega sold on the Mr. Knight version just yet. I do root for Steven in terms of his growing confidence, but I do see why some Mr. Knight fans are rubbed the wrong way with regards to, it's like, okay, so is this the Mr. Knight we're getting? Even though lots believe that this is going to be a journey to getting to the Mr. Knight that fans like, but we're not so sure yet. I guess you could say that he did facilitate a little bit of his own detective work with putting the star chart together and stuff. But overall, I did enjoy the action at this ending part of the episode. And Anton, you're an idiot. What did you really think you were going to do with the horse? And he got a freaking crescent dart in the back. And this is where we're more or less at the end of the episode. Khonshu was making me laugh, so I summon the gods, you summon the worm. And I really like how Layla was looking at Steven so endearingly in that way, because, you know, obviously she knows Mark, this man she loves, but a completely different person, putting all these pieces of the map together and how fascinated he was by all of it. But what this required was to turn back the night skies to the very night that the star chart was made, because obviously over time, they don't move very much, the stars, but they do move subtly, so it could be the difference of looking miles and miles away. So this is where Khonshu once again risked the wrath of the gods, and again, we had the seed planted earlier. The gods said, if you do that again, we'll imprison you in stone. That's exactly what they do, because he turns back the night sky. I would love to know what's going on with the physics here, because, you know, it happened for all of Egypt. It wasn't just like an in-the-head thing, spell kind of god thing. It seemed to be happening and everyone could see it everywhere. So what was really going on there in terms of in-universe explanation? I'd love to know that. Layla got the coordinates, and as this was happening, the gods were doing their little chanty stuff, imprisoning Khonshu. Khonshu kind of faded away. He did say to tell Mark to free him. So the cool thing I like about this is it means just like two humans now are going up against the might of Armmit's little freaking staff that Harrow has, and they're going to really have to pull something out the bag to go into this without the suit. You know, he can't summon the suit. What are they going to do? And how are they going to free Khonshu? Like, this is all going to be interesting. Maybe they're going to get the help of Yatzil. This is where we had Salim talking to Arthur Harrow. I don't know why he had to be brought there. I guess maybe it's out of respect for being the former avatar of Khonshu, just to kind of say, look, hey, here's mini Khonshu and his little freaking mini stone situation, and Arthur was basically flexing that everything I'm doing right now, oh, to you, man. So, you know, you're the one, really, who set me on this path of freeing Armmit. Man, it made me cringe a little bit in terms of hearing every crunch of glass and every footstep he took, because don't forget, he has shards of glass destroying his feet. And so, guys, that was the end of episode 3. I'm looking forward to, I feel like we can probably tell that we're going to get just very close to Armmit returning. Maybe there's going to be like an all-powerful CGI absolute crazy fest going on of resurrecting her or something like that, or freeing her more like. And maybe, who knows, maybe they might actually get her back and they need to quickly put her away again, or it might be the situation of she's almost back but they stop it in time. I am a bit concerned as to how they're going to do it. I hope there's not any kind of contrived moments, considering they don't have the Moon Knight suit now. You know, it's just two people going in against a lot of people, but also powered people, considering Harrow has the staff and everything else like that. So looking forward to seeing more, of course. Looking forward to seeing even more from Jake Lockley, and just, you know, anything that comes ahead. And let me know any theories you have down in the comments below. But if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you shared it, liked it. It does go a long way to help out the performance of this video. And if you're interested, follow me on Twitter, Instagram. All of those links are in the description down below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the next video. Goodbye.